In this video, we're looking at a Bible that was sent to me from 316 Publishing. It is the Legacy Standard Bible Giant Print Reference. So this is for people who are looking for something with a considerably large print. They also sent me some other items, and I will take a look at those items in future videos. And thank you to 316 Publishing for including me in their reviewer list here to be able to look at this Bible on my channel. Really do appreciate it. And as you can see, the one they sent me here is black goatskin cover. It's edge-lined, and this goatskin one comes in a very nice two-piece box. Has a nice printing on the front here. Nice design to it, which correlates with what we're going to see on the Bible. And it does say here that it has 95,000 references and 14,000 footnotes. The footnotes is one thing that really makes me happy because some of the early editions of the LSB didn't have footnotes. So I'm really glad to see a considerable amount of footnotes here. So the box is wonderful for this goatskin cover edition. And then when we look at the Bible itself, here is the black goatskin. It is perimeter stitched. The goatskin on this is, I would say, a very good quality. It's not necessarily the highest end goatskin, but it's not cheap by any means. It doesn't feel inexpensive. So good quality there. And, this is just a nice classic look to it with the plain front here. And then you have the spine, which has their signature look with the spine hubs that are kind of in these two spots here with the two together and then one on the top. You have Holy Bible, Legacy Standard Bible logo. It is produced by Steadfast Bibles, which I think is under 316 Publishing. And then also with this color scheme, you have 3 ribbons, and there's a black one, red, and kind of a gold color. They are double-sided angle cut ribbons. Also has gold gilt page edges, and that's very nicely done. And then there's red under gold with this edition. You also have the line that borders this Bible here, and you can see everything really goes together here because that line looks a lot like what you see on the front of the box. So I really like how they coordinated all of that. Very nice color scheme. As it said, it's edge-lined. So for those who don't know, that means that the cover is tabbed onto the text block there. Another thing about this is bound in Korea, I believe, but I did get a note from 316 Publishing that they've improved the process of binding. They've used a synthetic material that they've tested over the last few months, and it's going to be stronger than some of the bindings we've seen in their other Bibles from Korea, because they were having some issues. And so now this one is going to be a stronger binding, according to what they've said. So that's really good news for a Bible that's this large. You need to have a nice strong binding. So there's been an improvement made there, which I know is going to make a lot of people very happy. As we get into this, you do have cardstock pages at the very front here, a blank piece of paper. I do see that it is overcast stitched here. You have overcast stitching, so that's another piece of stitching on top of the regular text block stitching. Again, just to reinforce the binding and make sure that everything holds together really well. After that blank page, you have the title page for the Legacy Standard Bible. And here's the copyright information. So it does say here that the typesetting is from 2K Denmark, printed in Korea, July 2023. So this is a new release as I'm recording this video. This retails, I think, for $225, and I think on Steadfast Bible's website or 316 Publishing website, you can get this for about $200 right now. It does have a foreword to the Legacy Standard Bible, and it is in a good size font, which everything in this Bible is supposed to be for people who need a good size font. This may not be as big as the Bible text font, but still, for a preface, pretty large font here. You see already that there is a two-color design in this Bible, so the headings are in red print. The main text is in black print. Has an explanation of the general format for this edition, abbreviations and special markings. Then you have your contents. And this is largely a Bible that's, for reading. It's not really a study Bible, but it is a reference Bible. So as we get in, we'll see that. But we do have an Old Testament title page. Really love the look of Legacy Standard Bible products. I think that they've just done a good job with their design. I personally think their design is beautiful. And as you get into the book of the Bible here, Genesis, you see, 2K Denmark designed this, but it's a real classic design. I'll show a Bible in a little bit to compare this to an old edition of the NASB, or old. The text is the 1977, so we'll look at that. But what you do have here is, I think they said, a 14-point font, double column format with very bold verse numbers, though it is paragraph format. But that allows for nice smooth reading, but still easy verse finding. Now the notes are not as large of a font, but they're still larger than normal. And so you have footnotes as well as cross references down here. What I see mostly, though, would be translator footnotes, though there are some cross references. It just looks to me like I'm seeing a lot of footnotes. Now, again, it does say 95,000 references, 14,000 footnotes. So there are plenty of references in here. But as you can see, you get nice extensive translator notes, which I really like with the NASB family of Bibles. I think it's one of their strengths is the footnotes. So it's good to see that in this edition. You do see that there's going to be poetic setting for poetry, and we'll look at the poetry in the middle of the Bible as we get through here. The paper looks to me like this is printed very nicely with line-matched printing, and I think it's a 32 GSM paper. So that's not the lightest paper. It's not the heaviest paper, kind of in between what you're typically seeing in Bibles right now. Section headings have this italic font. So it's called giant print. And for this size of a Bible, which I would say is kind of study Bible size, it is a really good size font. And yet still pretty manageable Bible. I mean, you can carry this around fairly easily. Looking at more poetry here in the book of Psalms, you see how that looks. Not a lot of words per line, but they have separated the lines very well, where you don't have single words very much on each line. They make sure to separate by phrase. So even though there's not a lot of words per line in the poetry, it breaks up very nicely. Again, you have that two-color scheme, which just adds to the beauty of this Bible. And over, I'm just really impressed with what Steadfast Bibles is producing. You can tell these are people who really love the Word of God and want to produce high-quality editions of God's Word. So really impressed with this. I think for people who need a larger font Bible, or people who are teaching and they just want to be able to look down and see the text very easily, this is going to make a lot of people very happy. Let's get to the New Testament here. And you do see you have a title page for the New Testament. And the words of Christ are in black letter text. Interesting, I'm noticing that the Beatitudes here in the Sermon on the Mount are actually separated out as like separate paragraphs, or separate stanzas, I guess you would say, because it's more of a poetic setting. And again, just so many notes and references at the bottom. So not only do you have a large text, you have a lot of helps there for study. Even though it's not a study Bible, it's a really solid reference Bible. And then after the biblical text, you have monetary units, weights and measurements, Legacy Standard Bible Concordance, which looks very nicely done. And then after your concordance, you have the traditional Lockman Foundation maps. And they're on glossy cardstock paper. They're not necessarily the most detailed maps, but I think they're very pleasant to look at, very easy to read. To me, they more than suffice for the purpose. I like this one, the Ministry of Jesus. Again, you find these in lots of Lockman Bibles, NASB Bibles that are from the Lockman Foundation or Steadfast Bibles. And then you've got your cardstock in the back here, your end sheet with the edge-lined binding, and that's the entire Bible. I want to compare it to a couple other Bibles, just so you can kind of see its size as well as how the font looks. So one comparison I'll make is the NASB 2020 large print ultra thin reference Bible that I have. The two here, actually, the text blocks on them are kind of similar in height and width, although the giant print is certainly a lot wider or thicker of a Bible on the spine. So you can see it is definitely going to be, like I said before, more of a study Bible feel to it, whereas this is easier to manage. But I did want to show that, you know, for a 14-point font with references versus this one here, which is more of an 11-point font. I would say it's right around 11 with references and footnotes as well, although these are center column. I just feel like, you know, they were able to fit a lot into this and keep it pretty manageable to get that little bit larger font, or quite a bit larger font. I mean, you can see what you think there. This one is great. And Lockman Foundation produces this, but one of the differences, of course, is this is the Legacy Standard Bible versus the NASB 2020. Both updates of the NASB 95, but just with a little bit different approaches to them. This being a little more traditional and literal in its approach, this being a little bit more focused on updating it for current English usage. So you can see both of them, you know, they have similarities, but I also think the font in these looks pretty similar to me, so it's one of the reasons I wanted to show these two together. I'll show you one more comparison here, and this is, like I said, an older text. It's actually not an old Bible, but AMG Publishing puts this out, and it's called Giant Print, but it's the 77 text of the NASB. And one thing I want to point out here is it says it's an 11-point type, and yet it says it's giant print. So one thing that is really good to note when it comes to these descriptions of print in Bibles is they're talking about in proportion to the size of the Bible, because this is a handy-sized Bible. So for a handy-sized Bible, an 11-point could be considered giant print. But a lot of times when you read giant, you expect it to be really, really large. If you have a large Bible, a giant print is going to be, you know, maybe around 14 font, maybe even larger. Both are considered giant print, but this is a handy-sized Bible. So I thought that was a neat comparison. Another similarity is you have the two-column format with the line in the middle. This, though, is verse by verse. This one is paragraph format. So a little bit different, and yet there's some similarity there. This has some references in it. Highly recommend this if you want to have an NASB 77 edition for reference. This is a really good one. But they're not very extensive cross-references. They're in places at the end of the verse. Not a whole lot. I don't really even see a whole lot for footnotes, although I do see some footnotes. So this is going to be way more extensive as far as your references and your footnotes. But just thought I would show that. And when you're in the poetry section here, you can see they have a similar look to them. So the NASB 77, I have a review of this on my channel. It's kind of unique, but the NASB has been updated in various ways, as I've mentioned already on this video. And if you're looking for something that really carries some of those traditional features, but I would say is still really up to date, the Legacy Standard Bible is a really good option. And if you want a giant print, then this is a Bible for you. Now available in various cover editions, but this is a beautiful black goatskin that we've looked at here. If you have any questions or comments about this, I'd love to see that in the comments section below. But thank you so much for taking a look at this Bible with me from a Frisch perspective.